Hello world, this is Hattori debuting with his very first video on YouTube. Okay, the first thing I'm actually going to be uploading is how to download a Game Boy Advanced ROM and use it with the emulator. First I'll explain what a ROM is, in case nobody knows. A ROM is basically the raw data of a game, or actually any program. If you take a regular game that you'll put into a PSP, Game Boy Advance, Xbox, whatever, you'll notice it's in a disc or a cartridge, whatever, and that's a device that you put into the game system, and it reads it, and it plays the game for you on the system. Now, a ROM is the raw data of that game, cartridge, disc, or whatever. So, in other words, we've taken the game data, taken it off that platform, we've put it in what's called, usually they'll put it in a RAW or a zip, and those are just programs that compress the files. Because I'll explain a little bit more of that later. So, if you want to play it on your phone, that's all fine and good, because your phone, most phones anyways, that you can buy out there, like Note 3s, Nexus, whatever, the newer ones, all that stuff, smartphones, iOS's, they can run that kind of game. They have the capability and the CPU usage, all that other stuff, to run that kind of game. They just don't have the ability to run it. So, like, a good for instance, My Boy Free, that's an emulator. It's kind of like an Android version of the Game Boy system. It's taking the Game Boy system, putting it in a way, in a program on your phone. But when you download that, because you can actually download emulators off the Play Store, but if you download that, it doesn't come with games. It's like getting a Game Boy game system without any of the games. You have to actually get the games. So, and that's where the difficult part comes in, because you have to actually get them off the internet, and you have to download them. Now, I've actually gotten kind of lucky, because Game Boy games, most of them, that are the ones I've been downloading, have been coming in what's called zip files. And as I said before, they're a kind of program that compresses files. If you got a ROM in a not as a zip, just as the ROM itself, it would come in a bunch of files. The only problem is they'd all be broken up. They wouldn't be all one big unit, so to speak, and they wouldn't work. It's kind of taking, per se you have Pokemon or Mega Man. A good for instance is Mega Man. It'd be like taking the individual levels of Mega Man and breaking them up. They wouldn't all be on one card. So a zip is kind of like putting it in all one big thing. And it also, not only does it do that, but it also compresses the files, I can't speak. So it makes the data usage less. It's less space, which is always incredibly good, because most people use zip files not just for that, but they also use them for like when you want to send something over the internet, so to speak. So, like I said, you can download this emulator off the Play Store, so that's all good and fine. Oh yes, I have to warn you. Say you download a Game Boy emulator, but it doesn't have the games, and you get the games off the internet. If you've ever noticed, I know most people see this every single day, but it's just such a reoccurring thing, nobody ever notices it, that if you'll go, if you'll put on a movie, it'll say, piracy is a crime, all that, whatnot. Games, they've got copyright on them. In other words, the person who has made the game has put a patent on it, so that they've made the game, they've put it out there, and they've decided that they want people to pay for it if they want to have the game. So for someone to come in, take the data off the game, and put it out on the internet for free for anyone to just have it, well, that's kind of illegal. So now you're thinking, okay, so why is this kid putting up a video about downloading ROMs? Well, I'll explain that to you. Say the Game Boy game Pokemon, the very first, I forgot what it was, but like the first Pokemon games ever made, Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Red, they were Game Boy games. Now, what I didn't say about the copyright thing is when somebody wants to copyright something or patent it, they have to pay the government to have that patented. So, in other words, just like a membership on a website, you have to pay, I think, like a yearly fee of like a couple bucks or whatever. It's kind of cheap, but it's still, you got to pay for it. So if a company has made a game that's 20 or 30 years old and nobody is going to buy that video game cartridge anymore, they just don't care. and the patent will, and they let it go, and they don't renew their membership, so to speak. Now, that doesn't mean that I know for 110% sure if each and every game that you download off the internet that's Game Boy is going to be not patented. So, because I've never gone to the company and says, hey, have you patented this game? And it's very easy to look up on the internet if you want, so there's that. But the basis of this is if you try to go and get a PSP game that's, all new and stuff, but you can download it off the internet, it's most likely patented, so just FYI, warning, just be careful with that. Game Boy games are most likely, as far as I know anyways, they're most likely fine because they're very old, they're buying them only at used, like at Bone Moose or whatever, so there's all that. So anyways, on to actually downloading the emulated game. The one we're going to show you how to download today is Fire Emblem The Sealed Swords. Fire Emblem is a really, really awesome series that I personally love. And you can actually get most of the Fire Emblem series on a website that I found called MU Paradise. Really, really cool website. I have actually scanned and done virus scans, which I'll show you in another video, on how to scan these ROMs and all that stuff. And these are, what you're seeing here is most popular GBA ROMs. These are games, essentially, of for Game Boy Advance. Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap, weird name. Golden Sun, Pokemon Sapphire, Fire Emblem. And then there's Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones. So with Game Boy Advance, which I believe was the first platform, if I'm not mistaken, and you guys can correct me in the comment section if you like, for Game Boy Advance, I think was the first actual platform that Fire Emblem was ever released on. And the first two games were Fire Emblem, Fire Emblem, and then Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones were the only first two ones ever released in Japan. And I believe, America, not Japan. I believe those were the only two that was ever released. And I know there was a third game, but it was never put into English, never translated into English. So, some very devoted Fire Emblem hardcore fans decided they're going to take that third game and translate it into English. And what they did was they made a patch for it. And I'll explain. I don't actually know what a patch is, but it's basically you have a program and you've put more data into that program. It's kind of like that. So they put a patch on it that turned everything into English, or most of everything into English, anyways. And there you have it. But this also isn't a conventional Game Boy game. What they did is they took that and they put that patch on the actual Game Boy game cartridges, I believe. So you can go and you can get that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. They didn't put it on the cartridges. They made the patch so you can put it on the cartridges. So there's that. But now you're wanting to download a ROM, which is just the raw data files of the game. So now you're thinking, okay, I want to download it, but I have no idea about this whole program and code, whatever. So now how do I get that game in English? Because you don't know how to put a patch on. And actually, as a matter of fact, neither do I. So I have gone out and I have painstakingly looked through all kinds of websites which will redirect you, do this or do that. And I have found a website that lets you download the ROM of the game, Fire Emblem The Sealed Swords, in English. And I'll put the link down below for you so you can just go and download it yourself. Now, as everyone pretty much knows, when you go to a website, you just hit download. So it's pretty much as simple as that if you want to download a ROM. And this is taking... Okay, yeah. And it brings you to this. It says your download is starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 seconds. And so you're thinking, okay, that's pretty simple. But how do I know if I got a virus or not? Now, I'm pretty sure you're expecting me to say, oh, well, it's just a hit and miss. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. That's not quite true. If you want to make sure that this game doesn't have a virus, or whatever you download doesn't have a virus, there's a pretty foolproof way. You actually can go to a website called Virus Total, and I'll put that in the link down below as well. Oops, right here. And Virus Total has been in business for quite a long time. It's a free service that allows you to scan both websites and files, and I've never found out what this search means. I'm guessing it's a way to scan a search that you put in, but I'm not entirely sure how anyone would put a virus in that, so maybe someone can tell me that. But it's really, really great because what this thing does is there's something called a virus search engine, I believe. It's virus engine scanner, whatever you want to call it. And it's basically a program that scans whatever you give it to scan it for a virus, to detect viruses. This thing will run it through 55 different programs. So the chances of it missing a virus is pretty minimal because, unlike other things, if you have an application or a program on your computer that scans viruses, it needs to have its virus database updated. In other words, there's, I think, like 5, maybe 10 viruses made like every day or every week or something. Every week it needs to be updated because every single week, because there's just so many people doing it, there's always more and more viruses being made. So the database needs to be updated so that the virus detection program can actually detect it, because a program that scans viruses isn't like some magic program that scans a bad program and brings it up. It actually has to have that program in its database to actually scan, to know what to look for. And this virus total is literally the best you'll ever see because it's always constantly being updated. So it's not perfect, I'll grant you that, but it works. So if you're on an Android system and you hit choose file, this is going to come up called choose action. Camera, Android system, my files, and documents. I always hit documents because if you ever notice, if you have an Android phone, you'll go into your phone and you find one of the applications in your applications section called downloads. It'll show you a history of the things you've downloaded. In other words, it's like the same thing as a shortcut on your home page when you have like a game or something, and instead of going all into your applications or files or whatever, you just put a shortcut onto your you put a shortcut onto your home page of your phone, and then there you go. You don't have to go digging through your whole thing. Well, the same thing with this. If you have a file on your phone and you want to scan it, well, most people would just go to My Files and have to dig through, go here, go there, and start looking for it. And it takes about 15 minutes trying to find that if you don't know where to look. What I do is I just go to Documents. It's a neat little shortcut, and it will show right here. It has a little zip file marking or icon, and you just tap that, and it just uploaded the file to virus total of the file you want to scan. Now I always zoom out a little bit because this is more of a desktop website more than a phone website, so it's not very compatible, but it still works. Now this one says uploading file. Now look what it says here: file already analyzed. That, believe it or not, is a good thing. It means that this is not a brand new file or that this is just uploaded. So the chances of it having, if it has any viruses in here, the chances of it actually having something that this website will not detect is pretty minimal, given that this was already scanned. Now this says it was scanned 4 hours and 30 minutes ago. The last time I scanned this, it said it was scanned a week ago because I was actually making a previous video and it flopped. So anyways, when it comes up with this file already analyzed, it's basically saying that somebody else has already analyzed this file, and it's giving you the report of that previous analysis. This isn't giving you the report that it just analyzed now. When it says uploading file, it isn't actually scanning it. It's only saying, okay, someone's already scanned this. We're going to give them the report of that previous scan. That's actually not bad, because if you look here, it says 4 hours, 30 minutes ago. It was first analyzed by virus total on, and it shows you then. And if you look here, it says detection ratio. The number on the right, or you're right, yeah, the right, it says 54. That means it's telling you how many programs it's running this file through to see if it has any viruses. The number on the left, saying 0, is telling you how many viruses it's actually detected. Now this one says 0. That's actually really good. And given that it was only scanned 4 hours and 30 minutes ago is terrific, because it means it was scanned very, very recently. So there's no chance of, well, there is a chance, but the chance is very minimal that anyone has gone into that previously uploaded to the internet file and actually done anything to it. But as always, I always hit reanalyze just on the slim off chance. So we're going to let this analyze just to show you. Okay, it's kind of slow because it goes, there we go. That's its full analysis. So it was kind of slow, but when you see up top is usually when the viruses are going to appear. When you see these little check marks, that's great. If you see a red X with a virus name next to it, that's really bad. Now, given that we have all, okay, we don't have entirely all, but in other words, it's clean across the board. So there you have it. That's how you scan the viruses. We're just going to do that. Now, if you want to go and actually access that game, say you've downloaded My Boy free, I'll show you how to actually access it. Gotta find it for a second. Oh, it seems it's kind of frozen. Sorry, world, we're gonna have to restart the program because it's a little bit frozen. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now here you see at the bottom, Fire Emblem Sealed Sword. It's usually putting the games on the bottom. We are going to turn down the volume here, because it's going to bleed through. And there you have it, Fire Emblem, the Sealed Swords. Now, as you can see, the translation isn't exactly perfect, but it is pretty good. So, there you have it, and it'll show in a second. If you've ever played Fire Emblem, it comes up with this, which is showing the different classes. As you can see, it's not completely and utterly translated all the way, but it is translated 90%. So you'll like to see the words down here, the descriptions, all that stuff. Most of it's translated, so not every single part of this is going to be in English, but everything that's necessary is going to be. So, anyways, so that was how you download the game Fire Emblem Sealed Swords, and I will put the link for both Virus Total and this down below, so you can actually download it yourself if you want. Oops, hit the wrong button. So there you have it. This is my first video. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you've missed anything, or if I've missed anything. Any questions, whatever, put it down in the comments section below, or email me and I'll put my email down below. So thank you very much. You have a very nice day, people. And this is Satoru signing off.